this is going to be long. I'm on the third part, so thanks for staying with me. I guess I have a lot to say. All right, third part, Susan's Dreamcatcher blanket. Told you about the layout. Where was I? Oh, okay. So simultaneously, as I was waiting for all the squares to appear, I had someone message me through Ravelry who said, I see what you're doing on the itty bitty forum with doing this blanket for Susan. It's really cool. I think I know you. I think we went to Weowaka, which is this really cool place on Lake George, upstate New York. And you either you were pregnant for your son or you had just had your son. And I think we were both at this knitting retreat weekend. So I'd like to, which was good she said that because I knew she wasn't just some weirdo stalker, but I actually knew her. I'd like to help you seam it together when it comes time. Nice. How excited was I? Because if you remember from way back when, I didn't want to do a blanket because I didn't want to seam it all together. I knew it was a ridiculous project. Ridiculous. So yeah, so now somebody's offering to help me seam it together. Nice. So I said to her, yep, thank you. I appreciate that. And at the time, squares were still coming in, so I really didn't have anything to give her at that time. So I said, yeah, let's kind of reconvene when I get some more squares, and we'll figure it out. So different times, over the next couple months, we'd kind of message each other back and forth once in a while about, other things and whatnot. So in August, I started saying to her, okay, pretty soon, I've got like 6 squares out there I'm waiting on. It's going to be soon. So we had set it up that after Labor Day, kind of once things got back into the regular routine, she actually lives where I work on Wednesdays. So it worked out nicely that we could easily meet up when I'm down there on Wednesdays. So we had set up a Wednesday to meet for lunch at this little pizza place, practically around the corner from where I work, and I was going to pass off some of the squares to her. So I decided to do a slip stitch crochet to seam it together. I would much rather crochet something than I would to actually do seaming. And for me with seaming, I've got to be like sitting at a table and I've got to have really good light and yada, yada, yada. Where crocheting, I can do it in front of the TV with my son running around or out in the backyard when he's playing or whatever. It's just, to me, it's so much easier. So this is how I wanted to do it. Well, she didn't know how to do slip stitch crochet. And I explained to her that it's super simple. Bring a crochet hook and I'll have you off and running over pizza and not a problem. So we did. So I showed her. She picked up really quick. It was really great. I gave her rows 11 and 12 in the Ziploc bags, and she was off and running. At the same time, I think I had done like rows like 1 through 4, I think, something like that. And so the plan was that she was going to, her name is Bookboxer, by the way, Deborah. Deborah was going to put the squares together. So she would give me back, row 12 would be like one long strip, and then row 11 would be one long strip. I wanted to seam the rows together. I felt like that needed to be very even throughout the blanket. So I wanted the same person doing it to keep it more consistent. The little squares, some of them were kind of a pain. Unfortunately, with different people knitting them and with the different stitches and coming up with different textures, sometimes you'd have like a little teeny tiny square that was knit really super tight with a great big giant square that was knit really super loose, and trying to fit them together would really take some doing. So it almost has like a quilted look to it because of trying to work the bigger square into the smaller square. And I think it turns out looking really cool. But with doing it, it's not easy. And getting in there with a crochet hook, it just, you have to kind of power through it sometimes. So anyhow, I kind of felt like if she was doing all of the little seaming parts, it was probably easier if I just did the one big long seaming part. So I had 4 rows done and I had them seamed together. And along the way with doing that, there were times where, I messed up. I did some backwards or I did some in the wrong order and whatever. I'd have to rip it apart. There was one point when I had, I don't know, I think I had 3 rows together, and I kind of put it down and looked at the whole thing and kind of admired my work and how it was starting to come together and how cool it was looking. And then I realized I had one square completely flipped backwards. I had the wrong side up and the right side facing down. And then I'm like, it's staying. I don't care. It seamed in there on 4 sides. Like, and it happened to be next to ones that were a little bit more difficult to seam. It's staying. I don't care. Then Susan did this thing a while ago. She made some mistake in something she was making, and I don't know, she had a knit where a purl should have been, or a purl where a knit should have been, and she did this little cute blog post about it. And at different times on the forum, we'll bring it up, like, oh, well, I got a purl in my knit, I got a knit in my purl, because if Susan B. Anderson can do it and be satisfied with it, so can I. You know, it's kind of liberated us in some ways, that, you know, knitting doesn't have to be perfection. It's okay to have a mistake in there and leave it. So that was kind of a joke of the thread for a while, like, you know, well, Susan, because you like pearls in your knits and knits in your pearls, you've got an upside down square in there. So, you know, did it for you. So anywho, lots of things like that, you know, things were kind of coming along, and, you know, I might get tripped up a little bit, but, you know, overall it was going well. Well, simultaneously as all this was happening, come to find out, I was expecting my second child, and the first trimester hit. Bam. And I was exhausted. I was so exhausted. You know, I'm working part-time. I'm running around after a 2-year-old. I've got this epic blanket that I'm working on trying to seam. I have got no energy for anything. If my son was asleep, I was asleep. When he was awake, I was barely awake. I turned into a slug. Like, it was awful. Obviously, baby coming's wonderful. First trimester fatigue, holy cow, did it hit, and it hit hard. And I just couldn't keep up with the seaming, and I'm thinking, oh, and I wanted it done for her birthday, which was early October. And this, I would say probably the month of September was when the fatigue really, really hit hard. A little bit in August, but it was more really September. And I kept trying to plug along, and I just couldn't do it. Like, it just killed me. So I was pretty much just taking it to knit night on Thursday nights. And even with that, I was leaving a lot earlier than I used to. You know, if I got a couple squares together in a week's time, I was doing good. Luckily, Deborah, who was my seaming partner in all this, was flying through the squares. She'd like email me and be like, you know, 3 days later, I got 2 rows done. Can I meet you on Wednesday and take some more? I'm like, yeah. So I'm pretty sure I had 4 rows done when I gave her the first 2, because she was starting on row 12 and I was starting from row 1. So I'm pretty sure I had like 1 through 4 done when she took 12 and 11 and seamed those. And then I said to her, when she let me know that she had those done, I said to her, well, how many do you want? Would you want to take 4 more? Considering you got through those 2 rows so quick, how about 4? Because I'm thinking, well, you know, 1 through 4 is done. If I can just get 5 and 6 done, she did 11 and 12. If I give her 7, 8, 9, and 10, she could do all the little square parts, and then I just have to do the long, you know, the long seams on the half of the blanket that she seamed. And she said, yeah, sure. She said, I'm going out to my son's, and, you know, for the weekend, and they're kind of busy doing stuff, and, you know, give me something to do, and yeah, that'll be great. So she did. She seamed together rows 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, all the little squares. And so I had it in my head that by the time I got those back from her, I needed to have rows 5 and 6 done. Like, it was a really good deadline that I set for myself, so I could plug away and do, you know, a square or 2 at a time and just get it done. So the fact that she was doing this also really helped motivate me to keep going on what I was doing. If I did not have her help, I don't even know when I would have gotten this blanket done. It was major that she helped me. Not only did she seam half of it together, but she also really kept me motivated to keep going. So thank you for that. So I got my rows 1 through 6 done. Met up with her again for pizza. I think we had 3 pizza lunches over all this. And then showed her the 1 through 6, how it was starting to look. Got her, I already had her 11 and 12 at home. I got her 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then I was just seaming the long strips. So I'm seaming row 7 to the half the blanket I had done. And it was taking me right around an hour to do that one long seam, you know, seaming 1 row onto the blanket. So slowly but surely kept plugging away, kept getting it done. Finally finished it all up. I wove in a lot of the ends as I went. At the end, I still had quite a few ends to weave in. I think I had a couple rows worth of ends to weave in. Then I did a single crochet border around the whole thing twice. So I did 2 rounds of that. First round was tough because I had to get through some of those really tight stitches. The second round went a lot more easily. It's amazing how big it is too, how long it takes to go all the way around. All right, so I'm going to stop there. See you in part 4.